Call to order. Good evening. I will now call to order the Chesterfield Township Planning Commission meeting on March 5th, 2024. I will call the roll. Mr. Miller is here. Mr. LaBelle? Here. Mr. Demink? Here. Mr. Leonard? Here. Mr. Renault? Here. Mr. Jaworski? Here. Mr. Klanowski? Here. Mr. Carr? Here. Mr. Brokart? Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes of a prior meeting. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th, 2024. Support. Motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Renault. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Approval of agenda. I will make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted. Support. We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Jaworski. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Public hearings, we have none tonight. Reviews, our Secretary Rick will do the ones we can do in a timely manner. Mr. LaBelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item A is Sheets Incorporated. It's a site plan 2023-16. It's zone C3. It's 1.66 acres, southeast corner of 23 Mile Road in Donner. The parcel ID is 101-009-101-009. The address is 29050 23 Mile Road. The applicant is here this evening. And do you wish to proceed with her presentation first, or Stephanie, do you want to go through yours first? Stephanie, why don't you review Giffords-Webster's write-up, please?
All right, good evening, everybody. In your packet is a letter from us dated January 30th, and so I do want to just point out that the applicant has submitted revised plans, and that's not reflected in the letter that's in your packet. So some things may be able to check off the list with the revised plans that were received. So as discussed, the applicant is looking to build a 6,312 square foot gas station, convenience store, and restaurant. The restaurant will have an outdoor patio, and the gas station will have 12 fuel pumps covered with a canopy. There's also an air station proposed for the site. In terms of access to the site, there currently are 2 entrances and exits from 23 Mile Road and 1 from Donner. The applicant's proposing to close the western entrance on 23 Mile and leave the other 2 entrances open, as well as add access drive to the parcel to the east to Taco Bell. In terms of the dimensional standards, all of the dimensional standards have been met either outright or through a ZBA waiver. In terms of use standards, so this is the bottom of page 3, we had one note that the dimension needed to be provided on the plans, and that has been provided. So now all of the use standards have been met. In terms of site standards, we discussed, or in our previous letter, we noted that we needed to ensure that the brick facade was, or that the facade was 90% brick or similar material, and that has been confirmed by the applicant. The applicant also noted that they'll provide the building grades. In terms of parking, they did update to provide the dimensions on the plan as requested, as well as the maneuvering lane width. I discussed the access, the ingress and egress already, and the applicant, in addition to providing the widths of the lanes there, also added arrows to the plans to show circulation. We had some comments about bollards and fencing around the patio, and I apologize I did not get to that in my review this evening, but I believe the applicant has addressed that, and we can confirm that administratively. If the planning commission has any questions about that, we can take a look during the discussion. One thing that the planning commission may wish to talk with the applicant about is off-street loading and unloading. There currently isn't a plan for that or a space designated for that, and so the planning commission may wish to talk with the applicant if there's a need for specific space. In terms of bicycle parking, the bicycle parking was moved so that it's no longer in the parking setback. So that is now in compliance with ordinance requirements. At the top of page 6, I mentioned pedestrian circulation. There are quite a few parking spots on, in particular, along 23 Mile that I think maybe might be a challenge for people to park there, walk across past the fueling stations into the store, restaurant area. So that's something the Planning Commission may wish to discuss with the applicant. In terms of screening, the applicant does have a screening wall that is essentially runs along the south side of the building and separates the building from the detention area. They have also added, which this was not in my previous letter, they've added quite a bit of landscaping in that area, quite a few trees. The dumpster screening has been provided in the new plans. And in terms of everything else, from my previous letter, everything else was compliant with exception, and now we're on page 7. The lighting, and I did just review that, the lighting is now compliant. And the last thing that the Planning Commission may wish to discuss with the applicant, it would be the outdoor storage. So the applicant has proposed propane tanks, ice coolers, and other merchandise to be displayed outside of their building. The section of the ordinance that most closely relates to this does not address those sorts of items. However, you may want to discuss with the applicant any concerns you have about that. So I'm happy to answer questions as I can. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. We could do the presentation now.
Good evening, Bob Kirk, 19500 Hall Road, Clinton Township, Michigan. Good to see everyone again. Here with Sheets tonight. Appreciate the opportunity to present this matter. It's a site over on 23 and Donna. We're all familiar with it. Being that it's redevelopment, a little difficult, but we got a couple of variances. I think the other items that were talked about can be addressed or have been addressed. Dave Bruckelmeyer is here from Sheets to talk about site issues. We have a whole team here, whether it's traffic, whatever we want to talk about, we can answer the questions we think.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Again, David Bruckelmeyer, 39300 West 12 Mile Road, Farmington Hills, Michigan. Thank you for having us here tonight. We're excited to present this project. And, before I get into the site specifics, I'd like to just take you through a little bit of what and who Sheets is. We're a little bit new to the market, and I thought you'd really benefit from getting a little bit of the backstory on, what we do and who we are. Let's see if this works. The other way? Technical difficulties. One moment, please. User error. Okay. Very good. So I'm just going to take you through a couple things, a brand introduction, some photos, just a few, facts and things like that about Sheets. Talk about the existing site a little bit, and then the proposed development as well. So getting to know Sheets, who are we? We are a family-owned, family-operated chain of fuel station, restaurant, and convenience stores out of central Pennsylvania. So Sheets was started in 1952 in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and grew through the 70s as a deli convenience grocery carryout. And we still hold true to a lot of those values today. In the 70s, then we just made the natural transition into fuel because we were serving customers on the go. They were coming in for a quick stop, quick bite to eat, grab maybe a couple groceries in the evening, and they were on their way, and it just felt natural to move into the fuel market. So a few other things. Continuous growth. We have over 700 locations. The number changes daily. So in 7 states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, and now in Michigan. Excellent jobs. The Sheets family is very generous, and I can tell you that a lot of people, including the people that work at the stores, are really well treated. Great benefits, health benefits, vision, dental, 401k, a short-term, long-term disability. All of those things are included in the store employee level benefits packages, which is really unique. A lot of businesses like us don't get to offer that to their employees, so the benefits package is exactly the same as what I'm offered as a corporate employee. Just we'd like to highlight that because we care about our people. Another thing, we want to be the premium one-stop shop. If you need something on the go, Sheets wants to be able to provide the best of that item and have that readily available to you 24/7, 365. So we'll get into a little bit more of our offering, but that's just a quick blurb about why we're here and some of the things that we strive to provide our customers. A commitment to total customer focus. Everything we do at Sheets is focused on the customer. We do everything from lot checks, have the cleanest bathrooms, change our menus, change our product offerings, new technology, things like ordering ahead, mobile ordering on your mobile device, multiple ways to pick up your food, whether it be in an outside pickup spot, a drive-through, which isn't included here today, but some of our locations offer that, and again, not at this site. But we do a lot of things that are really innovative within the industry to just make things easier and more accessible and good for our customers. That can include everything from the self-checkouts to all the technology we use on the phones. We're looking into EV charging to be, a Sheets branded EV charging. So Sheets is just really innovative in that space. And just want to take you through now, we're going to move into the photos of existing sites. And everything I'm going to show you today, maybe a few tweaks here or there on some signage or something like that. But in general, these are exactly what our stores look like. These are prototypical, they're not one-off, they're not special. This is what we like to provide at every single site for our customers. You can see we've got some great architecture, indoor seating for up to 30 people. You can see some of our grab-and-go items there on the bottom right picture. We've got a big grab-and-go island that's got everything from like some fresh fruit and veggies, hard-boiled, soft-boiled eggs, all kinds of things like that. And then over to the right, you can see a lot of our convenience offerings and our drink lineup. This doesn't include everything. This doesn't include our coffee. We've got a great coffee bar with fresh coffee 24/7, 365. Just a few things about the food offerings. We offer everything from salads to bakery items to specialty coffees, all the way to like grilled chicken subs and burgers and fries and all kinds of things like that. The offering is really incredible. I think there's like 1.4 million ways you can order items. So it's just an incredible offering that's really very unique. And you can, again, 24/7, 365. If you want a breakfast sandwich at midnight, that's something you can absolutely order. Looking at the exterior of our buildings, again, minus a couple of small details, like signage and things like that, this is what our sites look like. These are 2 open sites. I can't remember where these are. I think this one is in Columbus, in Urban Crest. So these are very recently built sites, and this is more or less exactly what we've proposed. You can look at the elevations and confirm that, but this is what our sites look like. And then here are our building elevations. It offers a full brick section, no lick and stick, so these are full sections of stone and brick. Nice metal facade, awnings, that kind of thing. We have brick pavers around the store for our sidewalk, so it just really tries to elevate our look above the industry. That is the side that is going to face the back, so this won't be accessible at this particular site. And this is our fuel awning. You can see we've got some stone veneer down on the bottom, architectural metal, and then we have a roof truss, or an architectural truss system that is decorative that you can see here. So just a really industry-leading look. Trash enclosure is very similar. It matches the brick on the store. It's a full brick section, really nice quality doors, and they're tall enough to cover up the dumpsters. Just a few facts. We've gotten a little bit of misinformation going on about Sheetz because we're new to the market. We are not a truck stop. We are definitely a business that thrives in the hearts of communities. We do have quite a few stores that are off of interstates, but we do very well servicing local communities as well in the hearts of downtowns, things like that throughout our footprint. We do not allow overnight parking. So that's just something that's come up a few times. We just wanted to make sure we didn't have that misconception out there. And certainly we do not cater to semi-truck services. You will see on the site plan, a semi-truck is able to circulate our site, but that is only for purposes of delivering to the store and not to have a semi-truck pull onto the site. Another misconception we've got, and I have my traffic engineer here with Mannequin Smith who can answer any traffic questions you may have, but really, Sheetz is very good at going into markets and finding existing traffic and using existing traffic out on the road. When you go and stop for gas, it's always on your way to something. Rarely does someone go out, leave their house, go straight to the gas station, and go back to their house. It's always on your way. It's somewhere convenient. Where can you stop and get gas? So we take traffic off the road and we just put it back on. And certainly we account for that in the movements that our traffic study shows. Another misconception we've had is that we're a franchise. I would just, again, like to reiterate, we're a family-run, family-operated business, and we do not franchise any of our stores. They are all corporately owned. So just a few, things that have come up, and we wanted to make sure we communicated to you all tonight. I believe you're all familiar with the project location as well. Existing site conditions, I believe, again, you're all familiar. Do you have any questions about the existing site conditions that you'd like to go over? Very good.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, yeah, of course.
One of the things that was brought up during our zoning board of appeals is the contaminated ground. Would you mind spending a few moments on that?
Absolutely. I can't go into extreme detail with that. There is some existing contamination on the site that we are going to come in and clean up. There are some USTs we need to clean up, some contamination from some old historical uses, I think dating all the way back to the 50s and 60s. So we're going to go ahead and do some significant decontamination and hauling out a lot of material to clean this site up. Absolutely. Landscaping plan. Obviously, we have provided a landscaping plan. I believe we have complied with code, and I think we added a really nice buffer along the south side here and there's a storm feature back here that we're going to try to maintain and do some regrading with, but we've also added some screening along the very south edge of this property line, obviously being cognizant that we have neighbors. Of course.
Will you be doing some cleanup in that storm sewer area, or that storm drainage area as well?
Absolutely. So there's a lot, and let's go back to the existing condition side. You can see that there's a lot of brush back here. My understanding is that there are some invasive species and some things that need maintained. We intend to do a big cleanup project, and anything on our property, we'd like to clean it up, do some grading in the storm feature, put in a sod lawn, which would obviously be conducive to the storm feature, and then some screening along the south side, some dense screening there. Absolutely. All right. Any initial questions?
I know you use a microphone to announce the ticket number for food. What do you do in the middle of the night?
So a couple of things. We try not to use that microphone very often. It's pretty rare. Inside they have a queue that's up on a screen, and it comes up with your order number. So it's not every order that's announced. And at night, we try not to do that at all. Usually we don't have as high of a volume as, say, at lunchtime. So we're not trying to push as much food out of the kitchen quite as quickly. So we really don't intend to use that at night.
Thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Jaworski?
Can you expand upon the screen to the south? What exactly are you proposing to put in there? Because it appears that your building will be set back a little bit different than the existing building.
We are going to be set back a little bit differently. I'm going to have my engineer here answer the question on what exactly those planting materials are.
I mean, my only concern would be, I mean, obviously that corner could use a little pick-me-up. Probably the daily noise might be reduced because it's not a repair facility like it currently is. I'm just concerned about the houses and their current hours right now are not 24/7, 365. So, I mean, are you really addressing that south side where those houses are?
Well, I think a couple of things. We've allowed a pretty good buffer on the site.
Okay.
And we intend for this to be really as dense of screening as we can possibly make it. Again, we have to maintain a stormwater feature per some of the engineering design requirements. So we have to balance that. If I could put large trees in there, I would, but we have to maintain that storm feature. The other thing we're doing is we do have a screening wall right here to help shield, which is something that does not exist on the property today, is that type of screening wall right there. Another reason that we oriented the site this way, the main action for the site is here, which means instead of having the canopy vertical and you've got, all of your access right here all day, we've tried to put as much of the action on the site out towards 23 Mile to keep it away from the residences. So that's one of the reasons we oriented the site this way.
Yeah, is the restaurant going to have a drive-through?
This site will not have a
Okay.
drive. There will
I
be no
did-
drive-through here.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Mr. Leonard?
A couple questions. Is this your first facility in Michigan?
This will not. We actually broke ground on our site in Romulus on Monday.
So there's only going to be, right now, there's
Last
only two so far then?
This would be the second.
The second one?
Yes, this would be the
Okay.
second.
And as far as the cleanup, besides that, are you replacing all the tanks? I mean, are you just going to tear it all up and just put everything brand new in there?
This entire site will be completely brand new. We will not be reusing any kind of equipment from the existing fuel facility. Sheets installs our own top dollar, top of the line fueling system, including tanks, fuel dispensers, and product lines.
And then my last comment is, the business that was there, I'd go there once in a while for fuel, had a problem where it was wintertime and I was pumping diesel and I sat in my truck to stay warm and I was wondering why it took so long for it to fill. I opened the door and I had a pond of diesel fuel, so I didn't go back. So I don't think that business generated a lot of traffic. So my point is, I think you're gonna increase the traffic flow around that business just because of how nice and appealing it's gonna be, but I think it can handle it. Just because you've got access off of Donner and 23, so I just,
Yep.
yeah. And I like that with the building and the screening for the noise and everything, really, it's just it's a nice site, so, thank you, that's all I got.
Mr. Demink?
I'm good with everything. Very nice presentation. I think it's going to be an asset to Chesterfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Brokart?
I like what I see. You've done a real nice job here. I thank you for your professionalism.
Thank you.
Mr. Renault?
Yeah, I have nothing further other than I used to live just down the street. Now I'm kind of upset I moved away. This is going to be a real nice addition to the township, so thank you. Nice presentation.
Mr. Carr?
I have a few things. I guess first around, just site circulation, right? So I do agree with those north parking spaces that, there's no clear way, anyone that, if you ever do get that much, I guess, customers that are not getting gas, right? I mean, they have to walk across. They're just gonna walk across where all the vehicles are coming in and out. So I thought that, was I definitely agree. I think it's nice that you try to create a bigger buffer from the residential, but it almost would have been nice to have parking on the east and west sides, so that it's closer to the actual store itself. I mean, not much you can really do now because I can see why you did what you did, but I think that's gonna be an issue anytime you get people and vehicles. I think that is a concern. Another question I had was, I see that the Taco Bell, you're gonna have access there, which I think is a great idea, right? Anytime you want munchies and then gas, you know, you can kind of go back and forth. So it looks like you're taking up 3 parking spots, and I assume that taking up those 3 parking spots doesn't impact the required parking that they require on their site? I assume that's been looked at?
I believe that was pre-planned cross-access, so they probably just striped some spots there, and it
Okay.
was always planned to be access.
That's correct.
Okay, so so the 3 doesn't matter there? Okay, good. So what are the hours, so when do you anticipate getting your gas deliveries?
So they try to deliver in off-peak hours, so not at lunch, not at dinner, not at breakfast, so they try to come
But
in
still during the
between
day
all that.
potentially, right?
There will definitely be some fuel deliveries during the day, absolutely.
And so that hatch mark area that you got, goes diagonal with the underground storage tanks, I assume that's where the truck would be staged?
Yes, they will park over as far to the curb as they can.
Okay.
We do try to put our fill ports as close to the outside curb as possible for a couple of reasons. Number one, safety, it gets our driver further away from
Yeah.
any kind of circulating traffic. I still feel confident that this site is gonna circulate pretty well because we have 2 access points. You know, we've got ways for people to come in and out. Since we don't have a stacked setup, so we don't have a 2-pack setup where they're too deep, people can
Okay.
pull in and out pretty easily and back up pretty easily. I really don't think they're going to have to back up at all. I feel very confident about the circulation on this site.
Yeah, they would just have to go out of whichever way they're facing, whether it's Donner or 23, right, kind of thing?
Yeah, sure, and then it's pretty
Yeah.
easy to circulate around.
Okay,
certainly.
all right. Yeah, I mean, that's what I figured it was. I mean, obviously, it's not ideal, right? Especially if it's in the middle of the day. What about your food deliveries? When do you anticipate those? Because, you know, your circulation it's a tight site, so the way that thing's coming in off of Donner wraps around, and then it's got to back up into that little corner. I mean, obviously, I assume those are going to be off hours?
Deliveries for food are off hours, and they're by Sheetz employees. We own all of our distribution facilities and our
Okay.
trucks. So they are gonna be overnight deliveries.
Okay.
So they park, there was a question about this. It's denoted on the plans on C200. It's a note, but it does show our loading zone over by the trash dumpster. the dumpster
yeah, no,
corral.
I saw
It'll be
those.
on the
That's-
east side.
Yeah, and that's how, you know,
The only other deliveries that are gonna be during the day are something like a drink vendor or chip vendor, thing like that. They're there for 10 minutes in a smaller truck. I feel very confident that they're gonna have a good spot to park that'll be out of the way.
yeah, okay. And then you had just mentioned, you know, with that green space that you got on the south side, you know, you had mentioned storm, but it really isn't a storm because you have underground stormwater detention systems. So I take it that's just like gonna be a lawned area that's just gonna be pervious to allow, you know, so it's not, because obviously the rest of your site's impervious pretty much, so I assume it's just grass.
So we are gonna do underground detention as well. Talking through the county requirements, they are going to make us maintain an actual storm feature. It will detain some water.
Okay.
It's not gonna be as significant as our underground detention, but it is
Yeah.
still gonna detain some of that water.
Okay, so you are planning on having some detention in that area, so it'll be
In-
swelled a little bit kind of thing? But no
Correct.
outlet going to anything, just naturally permeates?
It does have an outlet, and I believe it's only collecting water from green space, so it shouldn't have a substantial amount of water, and it's not gonna be coming off of our impervious pavement. All the water from our impervious is gonna be going into our underground detention. My engineer, Tyler Smith with Mannequin Smith, is here today, and he's gonna give you a couple more details on that, it sounds
Sure.
like.
2365 Hagerty Road, Canton, Michigan, Mannequin Smith Group. I'm Tyler. How's it going, everybody? So back there, that feature is going to get cleaned up, and right now it's going to act as almost more of like a swale than it will a detention pond.
Yeah.
It'll be a part of the combined feature with underground detention because the site is split to the southwest and the northeast for storm. So you'll see half and half with what we have. And the intention is there is drainage that comes from the south to the residences. We'll have to maintain that drainage that comes from the south to the north onto the site and collect that. So we'll still have to use that area back there to do that.
Okay.
That's the intent.
Oh, so there's stuff coming from the residential? areas
Correct.
then?
The parking lot partially drains towards our
Okay.
site. So we're
Got
going to
it.
maintain that drainage pattern
Okay.
and collect that and pre-treat it.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just didn't see it like a detention system, and when you had mentioned it, I was like, it was kind of, but, okay, I understand that now. Thank you for that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was the floor plan for the building. I think that the two doors that are on the east and west side that are the farthest south, you need to look at the swings of those. In particular, the one on the east. It should always swing for egress, right? And so in this case, it's swinging, you got a left-hand swing, which means you're running into a wall in front of you and a wall to the south. It should be mirrored so that people can float and get away from the building. I also would recommend swinging the other one the other way too, because although you have an opening there, you're gonna now have people they're straight ahead is a guardrail, and then, and then to the right, you'd wanna naturally run to the right, but you got a door swing that's in front of you, so I think those two door swings need to be looked at, in particular the one on the east. So
as we go through the process here of the site design, at some point, we get our store design team that does
Yeah.
the store design for each site. They
So
will
this store design is
specifically
just
coordinate with site features, just like you're
Okay.
talking about. We'll reverse the handing of the door and make sure that
Yeah.
that's safe. They'll meet all those codes, and they take a good look at our site and make sure that they don't need to make any small tweaks like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so they haven't done
absolutely.
that yet before you
We have
sent it to
not,
us?
no, we have not ordered building drawings yet.
Oh, okay.
These are prototypical floor plans, yep.
Oh, really? So,
Yes.
so that's probably why the oil water separator you got coming up in the middle of the concrete ramp?
That's correct.
Yeah,
So there's
'cause
just
that's
little
not-
things like that that need
Yeah,
to
you're
take,
gonna have to
they're all
adjust that.
custom for each site, yeah.
Because the pump truck's not gonna be able to get there. And then I noticed in your thing, you got painted bollards, which we don't allow painted bollards. Was that corrected at some point? Maybe I didn't get it, but on the plans, it says painted bollards.
They're professionally painted and they match our building facade in the bronze color. They're good-looking steel bollards that we don't let them rust or anything like that because we get them, I think they're powder coated. Are they powder coated? Yeah, they're powder coated.
Okay. So they're pre-finished?
Yes, they are not finished in the field.
Okay. I don't think that's, what does our ordinance say? I just know we don't do painted. Yeah, if they're pre-finished.
Natural colors, so bronze, I think would qualify.
Yeah. Well, they're bronze painted. It's painted still. It's just in a factory versus, I saw painted and I just know that that's not typically what we allow, so I just was pointing that out to my fellow board members. The retaining wall, or the screen wall that's on the south side, I didn't see a detail for that. I saw the detail for the dumpster, but I don't like to interpolate that. It's the same as the wall. So what is that wall? Like, what's the height? Is it double-sided wheat brick? Is it got block in the middle? Like, what is it?
It's gonna be a double-sided brick. I think, the height is what the code requires. So whatever that is, we'll meet that. I think it's 6 feet.
Well, typically, because you're here for site plan approval, those are the kind of things we have to approve, right? Is to make sure that it's 6 or 8. It should have been in the plan to show us that, what you're doing.
It's 6, and I believe we just
Okay.
complied with code on that, yeah.
So has it got like a stone cap, or is it just,
Yeah, it'll have a cap detail on it.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all of my comments, Mr. Miller. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
I think it's a very good design. The only thing I noticed was there's no EV charging stations on there. Is that not a thing anymore, or?
So
In Detroit?
Sheets is one of Tesla's #1 third-party vendors, and Tesla and Sheets are working very closely to move into market. Unfortunately, we can't force their hand to come to our stores. So we're hoping that they do decide to come here. We'd have to come back to this body to get that approved. But in the future, we are trying to get EV charging at every site. And when the technology is released, Sheets is working on developing its own, tier 3 fast charging system. We would start to roll that out across the company once we're able to do so. We are pre-planning a couple of things. Number one, an ADA path so that we don't have to come back and regrade the site. We're getting some conduits installed ahead of time so that when we come back, it's not quite as big of a construction project.
Where do you think that would go on the site?
Probably the west side. Probably the west side.
Yeah, those parking spaces?
We've provided an ADA space out to the west side, or an ADA walking path out to the west side.
Thank you. Mr. LaBelle?
Thank you, Mr. Miller. One of the other things that did come up is the possibility of getting some crosswalk striping in the parking lot off of 23 Mile Road. Your drawing currently shows it on coming in and off of Donner. Is there a possibility, or is there a reason why we don't have any kind of, if somebody's riding their bike or walking on 23 Mile Road, they're dodging vehicles and cutting through gas pumps and things like that? Is there any opportunity to get some kind of a crosswalk off of 23 Mile Road?
Sure. So there is a reason we try to design one ADA pathway into the site, and it's familiarity. As customers start to learn our sites, they come frequently, they learn that there's a pedestrian path in one spot on the site, so they know where to look. So we tried to really go with one pedestrian walking path so that they're not having to learn where multiples are, you know, trying to keep pedestrians in one space on the site so that they're not all over the place. Obviously, we've got vehicle circulation, so we're trying to limit that a little bit to one ADA path just for safety. That's really why we went that route.
But the reality of it is, if they're walking down 23 Mile Road, they're not going to walk all the way around the corner to Donner to come into the site. That is a concern that we have. I did find the masonry wall is depicted on page L100 at 6 feet, Mr. Carr. It's in the landscaping plan. That's all I have, Mr. Miller.
It was a nice plan, and it'll be nice to have on that corner, so appreciate it, and I think it's a good thing, so.
Thank you very much.
Nice work.
Mr. Miller, I'd like to make a motion. Before I make my motion, is there any other, I don't personally see anything that needs to be brought up. Is there anything else that anybody else wants me to add to the motion before I make it?
Public comments on 9A.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I did look up the question about bollards. So bollards cannot be painted, and the proposed bollards are 5 foot tall, and the maximum height is 48 inches. So that might be just something that needs to be adjusted in your motion.
I think we may need to do some further coordination with your staff on that. Those bollards are definitely not 5 feet tall. I think they're 36 inches. So we certainly don't want to have bollards up here. They're really just to protect our sidewalk because it's flush, so we don't have a curb. So they're 36 inches. The only ones that are 5 feet are around the propane locker. Obviously, that's a little bit of additional scrutiny we're giving to that safety factor to have a 5-foot bollard there. Certainly happy to work that out with staff as we, work through the process here.
One additional question. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve Sheets Site Plan 2023-16. A couple of items that are I'd like to include in my motion is, as Mr. Carr brought up, the building department during the permit process look at the egress in and out of the building to make sure the door swings are correct and everybody has a safe egress. The bollard heights don't exceed 48 inches tall. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Miller. I have a question. Question by Mr. Leonard.
Mr. LaBelle brought up about having some kind of a path from 23 Mile. Is that something that you want to?
Ask the applicant. I mean, I didn't, before we make the motion, finish the motion.
Like you said, sorry, if you're walking on 23 Mile Road to get on to the site, there's really You know, you don't have the same thing that you would have coming off of Donner.
Correct.
So I didn't know if there was any place that might be feasible.
So we are providing a pedestrian path around the site, which would allow them to walk around and into the building. That is our main entrance, so
But if they were-
straight into the main entrance. The comment about coming off of 23 Mile Road, that's one of the reasons we want to have one pedestrian access to the site is just, again, familiarity with motorists coming in, they learn where pedestrians come from. Also not to have pedestrians wandering all over the site, you know,
Except
if we had a path here and I stubbed into the site, I'm just worried that they're gonna.
Except how do you
cut.
control that? That's the whole thing. People are gonna come in from, you know, the 23 Mile or Donner,
Yeah.
and there's no way, you know, to guide them to do what the intentions are. And so, it's a safety issue is the reason I'm bringing it up.
Sure, and you know, that's why the engineer has designed an ADA path around the site to the access. You know, we can't really control everything someone's gonna do on a site or anywhere. But what we have done is, you know, designed a controlled system where they can access the site straight to our main doors. It's a little bit further around, but we really would rather not have them trying to cut up through here where we've got vehicle circulation. Just trying to keep them away from the circulating area.
You know, not to,
We
it
could
will be
work
very
with
difficult for them
staff.
to get the traffic from 23. I mean, doing these site layouts, you want to direct the people to go in the safest route. By putting something down from 23, it's going to be difficult, you know, to force someone to do that. I was just sharing, I mean, it's a hard, I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic. I agree that it's going to be difficult, you know.
Does it have to be there?
I mean, honestly, the only thing that I can see them probably trying to do is if we really wanted a designated walk, is you do it along the east side in that greenbelt area between
Yeah, that's
Taco
what I was
Bell.
just looking at.
And then you just come in the same way from the east side, just like you're doing mirrored on the west side. And then, you know, you do it in that green space so that people aren't walking in the parking lot, but it gives a designated walkway for people on 23. That way they won't go diagonal across the parking lot.
And I don't think you're encouraging it, I think you're giving them a choice to stay safe. I just don't see, unless there's signage and a security guard waving them past that area, it just seems like it could be, with the traffic coming and going. I see that site, I've gone there quite a bit as it exists, and you hardly ever have to worry about traffic. There's not that many cars. I see this as on a whole different level. So safety, I think, might be more of a concern of people wandering around. You know, you got the cars that are gonna be parking along 23 Mile, that's gonna be a little bit of a walk through concern when there's plenty of traffic. So if there's some way to keep it safe, that might be a thought.
One of the concerns one of the other things, speaking of circulation and things like that, we do have a little bit of a conflict right here with our truck turn. It does encroach into where that walking path, if we were trying to keep it flush, it would encroach. The other issue is I don't think we have adequate space here on our property line in order to have a sidewalk. I'd have to check with my engineer and see if we have that. I think we'd be willing to work with staff and make that a condition that we work with staff to look at that. That's not something. We could just stripe it flush.
Yeah, straight, this is like 1.5%, 2%.
Okay. Looking through our designs here, we think we could provide a flush striped access pathway on the pavement here. So inside the curb, we could provide some flush access, and they'd be then able to get over to the store that way. Would that be acceptable?
That, and if that's not a solid decision tonight, that you would work with administratively with Jonathan and
Sure.
come up with that or even something that might even work better. So I'm okay with
Absolutely.
that. We don't have to decide tonight,
Yeah.
but just the willingness to, work with us on that for public safety would be great.
Yeah, we'd be willing to make that concession to agree to work with staff as a condition of our approval. Yep.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Okay, to continue on with the motion, repeat what I've said, is part of my motion is that I'm making a motion to approve, that the applicant works with during the building permit process to make sure that the egress and ingress to the building from the outside, the door swings are correct, and there's a safe path for the public to exit and to enter the building. The bollards will not exceed 48 inches tall. And the last thing is to come up with a way, finalize a safe path off of 23 Mile Road, striped parking lot, striped sidewalk, something to make our pedestrians safe getting to the building. With that, I'll make a motion to approve.
Continued support. We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Item B is Canna Square Site Plan 2024-02. It's zoned M2, 3 acres west side of Gratiot Avenue, south of 26 Mile Road. The parcel ID is 15-09-04-226-008. The address is 56877 Gratiot Avenue. Ms. Ballman, do you want to do the review, please?
Thank you very much. We have a letter that we prepared, updated letter that you got this evening at your desks. That's just to reflect some changes that we noted on the plans related to the window glazing. It was just some clarification that we wanted to point out, and we've amended the rest of the letter accordingly. The project is located on Gratiot Avenue, just a little bit south of 26 Mile Road. The project does include the construction of a 3,200 square foot marijuana retail establishment. 50 parking spaces are proposed for the development, and that is in excess of the amount that would be required by the ordinance. It was one of the items that we recommended the Planning Commission may wish to speak with the applicant about, was the need for the additional parking. All of the setbacks that are required by the ordinance have been met. We do note that a copy of the official paperwork issued by the state agency, LARA, will be submitted following the approval of the other licensing standards that are required here. It's sort of almost a chicken and egg situation, but that is forthcoming. All the required materials have been submitted. Again, we note that the street-facing glazing standard that we had called out previously has been met. And then the only other item I think that we had on our notes were to take a look at the loading and unloading areas, if that's something that's necessary. And then additionally looking at connecting the sidewalk from Gratiot Avenue to the sidewalks around the building themselves. That was generally the extent of what we had identified as remaining items, and happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Chairman, I had an opportunity to speak with the applicant before the meeting, and if you would like to make a quick presentation on those two questions. One was the sidewalk out to Gratiot, and the other was the loading zone.
Sure. I'm Michael DiAugustini with Quadrate Development. We're the property owner and developer on this project. I'll have to apologize for my lackluster presentation as the sheets gentleman gave, so I didn't come as prepared, but I can answer any of your questions, certainly. So we did speak to him earlier about those couple of comments. One was the sidewalk. It wasn't noted in the review, but certainly as if it's a CODA requirement, we can add that. We've already identified a couple of locations that we can add that with ease to accommodate that need. The loading and unloading area, I think that was a comment, and I thought our engineers had maybe discussed that with your group. And I thought we addressed that because it wasn't necessarily required. But again, that can be easily added with some striping of the northernmost parking spot directly adjacent to our door that goes into the storeroom there. So that's an easy accommodation as well. To answer your questions with regards to the excess parking, you probably most are aware that some of these marijuana facilities can get a pretty good dense traffic count at times. So dealing with our client on this one, we wanted to make sure that that was never an issue. So we did add extra parking to accommodate, any patrons so that we don't have backed up traffic and people looking for places to park. So that kind of was like a real thought out thing. We didn't just, I can tell you as a developer, I don't like to waste land. So it was a deep discussion we had with them on whether or not it was really needed. So those, I think, addressed most of your comments there. I can certainly add, give me any insight on the project or ourselves if need be.
One of the suggestions that we might offer is whether the applicant would be interested in deferring the parking to see whether it might be needed. So it might be on your site plan, it could be approved, but maybe there's a section of it, like the back section, or just an idea.
I've done that, banked parking. I certainly do that a lot in projects when it calls for it. I think for this particular use, dealing with our client, I think they do want it, and I think they may need it. And also, if I may add, so we obviously still own the balance of the property. We're already working internally with some concepts for what we're going to do back there. We'll be coming at a later date for that. We don't know what it is. And we've already kind of calced that in, but I can, Mr. Thomas, allude on that more if need be on the parking.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have noticed the traffic at this, Stavros Toma, 47677 Malonis Drive, Shelby Township. If you guys notice that all our parking's not getting used at the new site, it's because we haven't really activated the store yet. This is just a soft opening. We just got up on Google yesterday. So the parking is definitely needed. 50 spots is definitely going to be needed just for the employees and when they're switching shifts and then just having the customer flow. At the dispensary, you've learned that you can't have too much parking. That's just where we're at there.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. DeBank? Mr. Brokart?
I'm okay.
Mr. Renault? Mr. Carr?
Nope, I have none.
Mr. Jaworski? Mr. Klonowski? Mr. Leonard?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. LaBelle?
So, prior to the meeting, we talked about that sidewalk. Do you have an idea what you're going to do there?
Well, just, thinking it over since our earlier conversation, we could easily accommodate it on the north side of the driveway, and that would tie right into the existing sidewalk that's there along the building. Would run directly adjacent to the north side of the driveway. I think that makes the most sense.
Okay, thank you. I just
certainly, though, we would work with your planning department if there's a better spot, but I think that's the most.
I'd like to include
suitable.
it in the motion if I can. So
Yeah,
that's
wonderful. That wouldn't be a problem.
Any other questions? We're good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve Canna Square Site Plan 2024-02. The address is 56877 Gratiot Avenue. There are two items to be included in the motion. First is the applicant has agreed to include a loading area outside of the shipping area inside the building, outside of that door. So that area will be striped for loading area. And also there will be a sidewalk provided from Gratiot up the north side of the driveway, giving access to the site for people walking, bicycles, things of that nature. The applicant has provided a quality building All of our standards have been met with building materials. The standard has been met with the amount of glazing on the outside, clear glazing on the outside of the windows on the outside of the building as required for this type of facility. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. LaBelle, supported by Mr. Miller. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. Number 7 is comments from the floor is permitted by the commission on non-agenda items. Number 8 is non-agenda related communications. Number 9 is to receive and file all comments regarding agenda items. Number 9A is public comment, 3-minute time limit.
Hello, Janice Young. I know I'm not supposed to speak on agenda items, but you don't really allow opportunity otherwise, so, and you've already made your decision tonight, but can I ask by show of hands, how many of you guys have been to a Sheetz? Anybody? Okay, I went to one in Ohio just to check it out, because I knew it was coming here, and it's nice. It's really nice. I will be at Sheetz, I will admit it. I live off of Donner, and it's desirable to me. However, there's a lot of things about it that are not desirable, and I don't think you guys really touched on a lot of these issues. I saw tonight the main entrance is considered to be off of Donner. Is that the address now going to be on Donner? That's going to put a lot of traffic out onto that section of road that really can't handle it. It cannot get out, traffic cannot get onto 23 Mile Road from Donner, and you guys know that. It's going to be Chesterfield's first 24/7, 365 dine-in fast food restaurant. I'm a big subscriber to the club of nothing good happens after midnight, and I'm also the subscriber to get off my lawn. That's why I'm here. But I don't think it's going to be good for our community. And in Macomb County, I've really been able to find 1.5 restaurants that are open. A truck stop at 10 and Kelly, and a Coney Island in Sterling Heights that's only open 3 days, 24 hours. Traffic's going to circumvent 23 Mile Road as much as they can down Donner, and I don't know what you're doing to discourage that. It looks like traffic's going to funnel all the way down Donner. Is there anything that's going to stop people from pulling left onto 23 Mile Road? It's crazy right there now as it is. I try to turn left at Donner going west on 23, and I can't. Cars they'll dart out into that left-hand turn lane and like they belong there. And you know, I don't think you guys really fully have given that enough thought. You guys know that Marathon has no business in there. It's dead. And that Sheetz is going to bring a ton of traffic in there. And as far as the cleanup, why is Marathon not responsible for that cleanup in that soil? If they were the owner of that property during the contamination, they should be the ones responsible for that cleanup. You know, as far as the zoning never should have been approved on that, to be put against 30 feet away from the bedroom window of the condo owners. You know, and we already have a stormwater problem in this township, and now they're going to be infringing on that space. And their words were, "We'll try to maintain it." Well, I sure hope they do for the Woods condos people, because they could very well be subject to flooding over there. And if you haven't been into a Sheetz, but they have a vape bar, a beer cave, a milkshake bar, a restaurant. I mean, there's a lot going on in there. That's going to draw a crap ton of business in there. Thank you.
Number 10 is committee reports, ordinance amendments, or labor. Consultants of township employees, building materials, memo. 10A.
Thank you. So in your packets tonight, we have a short introductory memo. Just as a preface, Jill, Cole, Jonathan, Jennifer, and I all met to think about what are some high priority items for the township amendments moving forward. So this is the first fun thing we get to bring to you. So we thought that it would be worth taking a look at building materials. As you know, the township has received plans for building materials that aren't specified in the zoning ordinance, and you have all taken into consideration the quality and durability and just aesthetic value of those materials, but we thought it might be useful to provide a little bit more direction in the zoning ordinance. So just briefly as some background, we did take a look at the master plan. There's not a whole lot of direction there in terms of building materials. There's a little bit more direction, in particular in the Jefferson mixed-use district, and I think these were maybe more by way of an example of what could be adding to the character of the area, such as natural materials such as wood, brick, glass, and stone. But overall, the call for high-quality materials throughout the township was noted in the plan. So in your memo, we do have the current existing language for building surface materials and their alteration. But what we wanted to focus on tonight were just a couple of questions for the Planning Commission, which are on page 2. So in particular, are the current standards resulting in buildings having the aesthetic qualities that were envisioned and desired? And if not, where's the mismatch? What other building materials would be appropriate in some or all locations in the township that we could put into the zoning ordinance to provide more direction? What changes would the Planning Commission like to consider with regard to building materials? And then could a simple amendment such as the following provide flexibility with respect to materials? And that amendment basically says that alternative building materials can be approved if the applicant demonstrates that that the alternative materials are consistent with the intent of a building materials section and will not have unreasonable impact on adjacent uses. And so for demonstration purposes, building material specification sheets, photographs of existing application material samples are encouraged to illustrate that durability and appearance equivalency. So I'll stop there. I'll open it up for discussion and questions, but our thought was we could get some guidance from all of you and then make changes as needed and bring some draft language back at the next meeting.
Sorry, maybe we can discuss it further at the next meeting. I don't have anything specific right now.
Mr. Brokart?
I'm okay for now, thank you.
Mr. Renault?
Yeah, I'm going to need to review this as well, but also, I would still be interested, not being, well, I deal with the financing of it with regards to the construction materials. I'm still not as familiar as some of the other board members here with what's available, what's out there, and trying to look for information so that I can actually make an educated recommendation of what we may want to include in the in our codes going forward. So that's the part I'm still a little fuzzy on, so I don't know what information we can get on that as far as what's available.
Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess another 2 weeks would be good. I mean, but the alternate statement, I mean, isn't bad. I mean, that's more or less what we're doing right now with the brick or better, right? Because we have been flexible. So, I mean, that's just kind of putting it in writing, saying we'll be flexible, we'll continue to be flexible. So, yeah, I mean, I'll have to get a little more thought. I mean, it's a tough one though, because there's so many different types of building materials now, and a lot of materials now are saying lifetime guarantee and lifetime guarantee of, you know, not fading and all those things, but they're not all built the same. So it's interpretive and it's subjective, and I don't know how you get that in an ordinance other than I guess a planning board like we have, where a group of us that are experienced with it, you know, and look at each project specifically as it is, and, you know, do what we think is best for the township. That's my only thought on it, is because, you know, if you've done enough construction in your time, there's a lot of things that, a lot of manufacturer brochures and specifications that say lifetime of a lot of things, but, you know, a lot of them, they're not all the same, that's all I'm saying. So it's just, it's just subjective and needs more time to really understand how to define it. If we're gonna try to define it to make it easier for applicants not to have to come to us or not to go to zoning, is all I'm saying. It needs more thought, that's all.
I'll chime in on that too. So that was one of the ideas behind the wording, just to give you some ideas, were really to give you the ability to be flexible with the respect to the ordinance, which we understand that you like to do. But then really putting it on the applicant to demonstrate to your satisfaction that something is durable or will be long-lasting, and then giving them some ideas. Well, here's ways you might do that. It might be with the spec sheets and the brochures that say lifetime guarantee, but it also might be, here's some applications from Minneapolis where this product is being used, right? Similar climate. We've been using this for 10 years here. This is an example. Here's a photo of what it looks like today. So those might be some things that you might ask for. Where else is this being done around here? Where can we go see it? But then really, again, putting it on the applicant to demonstrate to you, not that you have to be all the experts in all things. So if that's helpful, but I would say, and Stephanie said this, you know, as the questions that we posed out there, drive around, see what you think looks good, see what you think doesn't look good. Is there anything that you approved that now 5 years later you're like, oh, you know what? I don't know that I love that still now. Or things that conversely that you approved 5 years ago and you're like, you know what, that still looks really good. That's good, we like that material. So just be kind of watching, or if you are driving around in other places and you see buildings that you think have been there for a while, but they look good and they're not brick, they might be something else, just take a quick stop your car, take a picture with your phone, send it to Jonathan, and we can take a look and see what they are. Maybe we do a little slideshow too of things that people like and find appealing and attractive and long-lasting.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we'll wait for something come from you guys, you know, with pictures. I like this last sentence you guys wrote on there. You know, we can improve it if they prove that it's, you know, better than brick. So, yep.
Yeah, so that's why I like that statement. I thought I was just, yeah, how we expand on it is what I got to think through, you know, to just make sure that's the clear language we want, you know, and what that means. That's all. I just, you know.
We just had that situation recently where we had 3 different thicknesses on the hardy, and we chose the one that we felt most comfortable with. So I kind of like it that it's not locked in, because it does give us that ability to kind of move around on it. And I agree, let the petitioner provide examples and samples. We can also drive around, look at buildings and different aesthetics. I mean, that's where I've been on this alternative to brick for a while now. I mean, just because you see it all over. We've got some of it in Chesterfield, and I think it's the right time to at least acknowledge it and deal with it, you know, in a good way, so.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner comments?
I'm good. Thanks again, and I think this Sheets is going to be one heck of a development. It's really top-notch. I mean, the way they presented something, wouldn't it be great if everyone came in like they did? I mean, they had the I's dotted and the T's double-crossed, at least in my opinion. I don't know what the planning people think, but in my words, oh yeah. They were right on spot on everything, and they had their people here to do it, too.
Mr. Brokart?
You know, I appreciate it when people come and they take the opportunity to speak to us, because it's their right, and we need to hear from them. Ms. Young spoke tonight about Sheets and some of the things that perhaps she thought we didn't consider. And you know what? And she has every right to come here and say those things. There was a traffic study completed. It was accurate. The fact that it's open 24 hours, maybe for some people, isn't a good thing. For me personally, it's a very good thing. I travel late at night, and there are times I'm coming down 23 Mile Road, and I need to fill up with gas because I don't want to make a special trip in the morning. The contaminated property is going to be fixed. It's a big deal. I don't know what other organization would come in here, take out contaminated property, land, and make it right again. That's a big deal environmentally. The drainage was addressed. The Michigan Department of Transportation has the traffic study. They're looking at it right now. There is no complaint that I've heard of regarding traffic. The police department thinks it's okay. Selfridge Air National Guard thinks it's okay. We've done a little bit of homework here. I don't want anyone to leave here thinking that this was willy-nilly decided. These professional people did a very nice job. So although Ms. Young has concerns, that's okay. I think what we did tonight was a good thing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renault.
I am good for the evening, thank you.
Mr. Carr?
I'm good.
Mr. Jaworski?
I am good, thank you.
Mr. Klinowski?
All set.
Mr. Leonard?
Yeah, I agree with Rich. You know, we've dealt with certain projects in the past, and some of them pretty recent, that the whole neighborhood came out. The room was filled. Not one person sat out there that lived right behind this new business, came out, wrote letters. A lot of times we'll get letters. The objection tonight could have been submitted ahead of the meeting, letter, you know, for the board to consider, even though, you know, it's not, you know, it's after the fact. There's an opportunity to voice your concerns way in advance of the meeting, and there was one person that complained who doesn't even live there. But I agree, she has a right to express herself, but I think there's a lot of checks and balances, and we always, you know, we always listen to the neighbors. We don't always agree 100%, but we listen to them, and not one person came out. I think they're just thrilled that this eyesore, I mean, who knows what happens there now, you know, at night. Even though it's not open, it's probably worse. You don't know, it's dark. And so I think it's a great addition to the township. And the traffic coming off of Donner is already there. That's the only way I go in and out of that place, because I come from that way, that direction. I don't see, maybe a little more traffic, but I don't see it being anything other than it is now. Both drives are going to have increased traffic. Plus, we have the cross access, and so I think it's good, and you know, hopefully it works out as well as all of us feel it will. Thank you,
Mr. LaBelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm looking for volunteers for pre-planning. Mr. Leonard?
I will.
Mr. Carr?
Mr. Carr? And that's it, thank you.
Okay. There was one comment made tonight about 23 Mile and Donner. They couldn't make a left-hand turn. That's got a green arrow to turn there, so it's impossible not to be able to turn. So that's all I have to say. Number 11 is adjournment. I will make a motion to adjourn at 8:13. We have a motion by Mr. Miller, supported by Mr. Renault.